Hello, we're going to continue our reading of Poppy by Avi, and today we're doing chapter 19 and chapter 20, which will finish this wonderful book. Poppy, chapter 19, The Return. For a long time, Poppy gazed at the lifeless body of Mr. Okax. She thought she should be feeling triumphant joy. Plain gladness would have been good enough. Somewhere she did feel pride, but small as she was, it was buried deep. What Poppy felt was weariness, as if she had aged 4 seasons over the last hour. She felt old. Before her on the ground lay one of Mr. Okax's feathers. Poppy had never really looked at an owl's feather. This one was quite lovely. It was a mottled brown color with a white tuft on top, soft as any baby's breath. She picked it up. In the breeze, the veins stirred slightly. With a sigh, Poppy slipped the feather into her sash. Then she turned and looked at the cornfield. At first, she thought what she most desired was to lie down and sleep. It was growing dark, but a moment's thought made her realize sleep was impossible. What she needed to do was tell someone about her discoveries and about what had happened. She crossed the dirt road and moved along the edge of the forest. There was enough of the porcupine's lingering scent for Poppy to find the trail that Aerith had used to go from his home to the field. For once, and it made her smile wanly, she was grateful for the old fellow's stink. Plunging directly into Dimwood Forest, Poppy traveled slowly, methodically, taking the time for proper precautions. Now and again she paused to absorb the lush view, the way moonlight filtered through the fragrant air. A very tall tree, a particularly beautiful fern, a bush laden with blackberries as big as her head. When Poppy reached Aerith's log, she paused long enough to contemplate Mr. Okax's now abandoned snag. Who, she wondered, would live in it now? Aerith! She called into the log from the entryway. Are you home, Aerith? In response, there was some scratching and snorting deep within. That you, Aerith? Who the snail squirt is that? Came the growled reply. Can't a creature have any privacy around here? Beat it unless you want to eat a quill sandwich. Aerith, it's me, Poppy. Who? Don't you remember Poppy? Poppy? Came the echo with more enthusiasm than before. A great rattling and shuffling could be heard. Then Aerith's grizzled flat face loomed out of the darkness. That really you, girl? Where is it? Where is what? The salt. Didn't you bring it? Aerith, it's about Mr. Okax. Ugh, I don't care a flea's flick for that jerk of an owl. Where's the salt you promised me? It's there by Newhouse, all broken up on the ground. On the ground? Aerith shrieked. What's it doing there? Aerith, I couldn't carry it, and besides... On the ground? Oh, great snail swoggle! It'll melt to nothing! The porcupine came barreling by so fast, Poppy had to leap aside. The next moment, he was all but running down the trail. Can I sleep here? Poppy called after him. Oh, can't stop to talk. Aerith called back, and indeed he was gone. Poppy stepped into the log, lay down, and was asleep at once. She slept until the sun was high. When she awoke, Aerith had not yet returned, so she went out, found some seeds, ate them, returned to the log, and slept again, until dusk. This time, when she awoke, Aerith was there. He was chewing, in a roisterous, slobbery way, on a chunk of salt. Hello, Poppy called. Aerith didn't even look up. Delicious. Best salt I ever had. He licked his lips. Awesome. Then you got some of it? Some of it. All of it. I'm just about ossified. This is the last bit. It was all pure, wonderful salt. Absolutely delicious. Amazing. Divine. Aerith? What's that? Did you see Mr. Okax? Oh yeah, him. Dead. What happened? Poppy told him. The porcupine, though busy with the salt, slowed his slobbering to listen. When Poppy finished her story, she asked Aerith, What do you think? Eris shook his head. Ugh, never thought I'd appreciate that owl's hard head, but if what you said is true... It is. Well, I'm grateful he broke up the salt lick. Really, Poppy, it's incredible stuff. Want some? I mean, just a small taste. Aerith? What's that? I'm going home now. May I come back and visit? Oh, sure, Poppy, sure. Anytime. And bring some salt. I'm going now. Poppy? What? You're the salt of the earth. Poppy crossed Glitter Creek by using the bridge. The rest of the way she traveled by the far side of Tar Road. This time she reached Gray House, it was late. The first thing she noticed was that the red flag was flying. She climbed the porch steps slowly. Instead of going right inside, she took a peek. The entire family was gathered in the front parlor. Lungwort stood atop the old straw hat, apparently in the middle of a speech. And so, dear friends, we have to break up the family. Yes, disperse, go our separate ways, forage on our own. There is insufficient food for us here. But first, I wish to engage in a brief memorial tribute to our full family, which... Poppy? Poppy, is that you, Poppy? She stepped inside. All the mice turned to stare. Poppy gazed at them evenly. Then she pulled out the feather, Mr. Oacax's feather, from her sash and held it aloft for all to see. Mr. Oacax is dead, she said solemnly, and I can tell you that new house is right next to a big field of corn that has enough to feed us all forever and ever. Oh, Poppy, Lungwort cried triumphantly. Didn't I say that if you listened to my advice, all would be well? That's the end of chapter 19. And chapter 20 is the final chapter in the book, and we'll read that now. Poppy, chapter 20. A new beginning. Almost 13 full moons to the night since Mr. Oacax had killed Ragweed. Poppy and her husband Rye, how they met and married is another story, stood on Bannock Hill with their litter of 11 young mice. They had formed a circle around a small hazelnut tree. Looking on, beneath a full golden moon, was Aerith the porcupine. This tree, Poppy was saying to her rather restless children, was planted after a fashion by my late and dear friend Ragweed. I can't be sure that it was he who dropped the seed nut from which this tree has grown, but I would like to think it so. Though it is rather frail now, someday this tree will be mighty. I want to affix this, here she held up a small earring, to a high branch, so as the tree grows, it will glitter in the sky for us all to see. Hey, Ma, does Ma love making long speeches, or does she? Whispered one of the litter to her brothers. Well, and here on Bannock Hill, Poppy went on, once forbidden to us, though we too live in Dimwood Forest, we shall have our dancing place. It doesn't matter how you dance, my children, slow or fast, by jumps or steps, as long as you are free to dance in the open air by the light of the moon, all will be well. Now, Aerith, if you please. Old Aerith, murmuring, mouse muck, under his breath, gave a grunt, but began to shake and rattle his quills until he settled into a steady beat. Then the 11 young litter mice began to dance their own way, with jiggles and jumps and leaps and loups. As for Poppy and Rye, they spun round and round in a stately waltz, dancing by the light of the moon and the earring which glittered high on the hazelnut tree. That's the end of Poppy by Avi.